Hey, what's up? How you doing, everyone? It's James Amero here at SwitchWatch, your home for everything Nintendo Switch related. Unfortunately, I've been a little bit unwell, so there's a bit of a delay in this one, but today we've got a review for you, and this one is Battle Chasers Nightwar. The game was developed by Airship Syndicate and has been published by THQ Nordic. Thank you very much to those guys for giving us a copy for review purposes. I recently did a gameplay video which you can check out over here, but today let's jump in and find out if this one is worth your hard-earned cash. Battle Chasers Nightwar has an interesting history. Back in 1998, Joe Madureira, a comic book writer and artist working at Marvel Comics, left to start his own comic book series, Battle Chasers. It was a sword and sorcery steampunk tale that only produced 9 issues and yet was extremely popular. Madureira left the industry and abandoned Battle Chasers to move into the games industry, where he was later to become creative director for Darksiders. Fast forward to 2015 and Airship Syndicate, a new development studio with industry veterans including Madureira himself, created a Kickstarter to get Battle Chasers Nightwar funded. The game is set as a standalone story to the main comics, which is good as it allows someone unfamiliar with the comics to pick up and understand what is going on. The story follows Gully, a young girl whose father, a legendary hero, has gone missing, leaving her his gauntlets, the source of his power and envy of all. Gully has a mission to protect these gauntlets while searching for clues about what happened to her father. Supporting Gully are the comics series familiar crew: Garrison, a swordsman who was loyal to her father and now swears to protect Gully; Nolan, the old eccentric wizard; Calibretto, the giant war golem that is a gentle giant; Red Monica, a lovable rogue after riches; and a new character in Alamon, a wise demon hunter. As a turn-based RPG inspired by JRPG classics, many will be familiar with the genre's classic construct. Young hero makes unlikely friends and stumbles into an evil plot. The story isn't laid on thick. It develops slowly in between battles through comic-inspired dialogue, cutscenes, and the odd interaction between your characters. The dialogue is good and the characters are lovable, and a lot of lore can be found throughout the game. The story, however, is lightweight without any sense of gravitas. Battle Chasers Nightwar is a classic turn-based JRPG influenced game that sticks to its roots, its class system and tactical combat, whilst dispensing with some of the genre's bugbears and modernising elements of gameplay. You control a team of 3 characters against up to 3 enemies per battle, and there is an initiative turn-based system presented at the top left-hand side of the screen displaying a turn order. This is based on both the speed of your character and enemies, as well as the specific actions you take. For example, some attacks will be instant, whilst others, more powerful attacks, take longer to charge, all of which can be previewed by selecting an action and seeing the impact to the turn order. This dynamic system encourages constant re-evaluation and is affected by one of the large number of buffs and debuffs such as haste or slow. Certain equipment will also affect your speed as well. Each of your characters falls into a class role from tank to healer and damage dealer. As each character develops, they will unlock a number of skills which can often be used in collaboration to devastating effect if used correctly. For example, you can attack an enemy with Calibretto's Gut Punch, which inflicts sunder, a status effect that opens them up to more damage, and follow up with Garrett's powerful strike to demolish an enemy. This plays very well with the initiative turn-based system, as you will need to evaluate how best to combine attacks in order to take down an enemy with an eye on taking less hits. HP and mana are here as expected, but we have a mechanic called Overcharge that adds a twist. Your character's basic attacks generate temporary mana by overcharging their mana meter by a certain amount, and up to a certain point depending on both the action taken and the character's ability to generate overcharge. This adds some really interesting nuances to combat. The first is that when your mana is depleted in one of the longer dungeons, you have a way to generate additional mana to power your spells. The other is the incentive to open up battles with basic attacks in order to overcharge your mana so as not to continually expend as much mana in battles. This balance led me to interesting decisions and made your basic attacks something heavily used as opposed to something disregarded early on, as many other classic games do. As you get further into the game, you'll be reunited with additional comrades that offer their own unique playstyle and interesting combos with other characters. As well as Overcharge, your team share a battle burst meter. Think of limit breaks from Final Fantasy, complete with an epic cutscene when activated. Where things differ is in the fact that the battle burst meter is shared across your 3 characters, leading you to think wisely about which is going to be the most effective in this particular battle. Outside of combat, you travel across the overworld, essentially a game board style map similar to what we see in many mobile phone RPGs today. This modern approach does away with the larger wanderings across a big map we might expect. Random encounters are instead replaced with an enemy icon at certain points on the map, which you can choose to avoid in an effort to remove some of the frustration of random encounters. These cannot be avoided altogether, but you can choose how many battles to take on and at your own pace. Travelling across this map is a fairly quick affair that you use to get from point A to point B, with a little exploration thrown in. Crafting resources and treasure chests are spread across the map to entice you to explore further, and will often require additional battles to be won in order to gain the additional loot. NPCs are also available, with the game's main town conveniently placed and easily accessed with the help of portals that you can use to fast travel between discovered areas. Battle Chase's Nightwar features 9 dungeons, and these are the biggest and best aspect of exploration. Interestingly, each dungeon is semi-randomised, with predefined areas connected by randomised routes and enemy placement, with major encounters such as bosses being fixed. You can complete a dungeon, head back in, and find it rearranged. When you enter a dungeon, you can choose a difficulty level in the style of Diablo. Opting for a less punishing option will be significantly easier, but will provide lesser quality rewards, whereas higher difficulties will slap penalties on, but provide a much improved chance of finding rare equipment and materials. I love this system. It incentivizes repeat runs and lets players choose whether to play it safe or notch up the difficulty based on their own playstyle. Each dungeon will feature some fairly simple puzzles to solve, as well as randomised traps and even hidden dungeons, rare bosses and secrets to be discovered, all of which serve to keep you wanting more. There are quests given to you by NPCs. Another subtle feature is the perk system, which allows you to put points awarded as you level up to each character in order to tweak their attributes to your personal preference. As well as each character's perks, there are additional perks for killing a certain number of each enemy, rewarding you for grinding the same mobs, which you may need to do in order to level up and get tougher at certain points in the game. One of the game's criticisms was its steep pacing on launch on other platforms back in November last year. This is something that has been addressed now, and I found the pacing to be spot on. I never felt helpless or overly strong. As you do gain in prowess, you can opt to skip easy battles which no longer provide XP on the overworld map, stopping repetitive and pointless battles. There are a huge number of items to be crafted in the game, from potions through to epic weapons. The system is fully fleshed out. There is an interesting twist of the modern here as well. Unlike many games, you are able to attempt to craft an item if you are missing ingredients, with the chance of success reduced accordingly. On the flip side, if you opt to put more ingredients in, you have the chance of producing an epic version of the item crafted. This both adds some interesting choices whilst removing some of the tedium often faced when crafting in other games. Weapons are visible in battle, something I find disappointing when absent, and is very welcome here. As well as different rarity levels for weapons, you have a number of slots for armour and accessories, as well, making the dungeon runs and crafting worthwhile. Battle Chase's Nightwar has a lot of depth hidden behind its beautiful graphics and wonderful sound effects. There is substance here, with some cleverly done balancing and an interesting blend of traditional turn-based battles with tweaks. Unlike some of the other RPGs out there on the Nintendo Switch, these changes are well thought out and add to the game instead of adding clutter. The missions are planned to reduce the annoyances. For example, if a character dies in combat, they are revived afterwards with a small amount of HP. These small changes improve the experience.
Rhino, you're all right.
Yes. Are you feeling better? You've been resting for a few hours.
I guess I wasn't completely prepared for that cannon blast. Was I dreaming, or did you leap off the ship to catch me?
The music of Battle Chases is matched throughout perfectly to its setting and place. When traversing the open world map ranging, exploratory background music evokes a sense of questing. In contrast, the dungeons have a much more sinister, oppressive feel to them, given weight by the darker music used. Clark Powell produced 29 songs for the game, a very complete and accomplished soundtrack that, due to its variety, has depth and purpose. In addition to the excellent soundtrack, it is perhaps the subtle sounds which most impressed me. The library of sound effects used are excellent. Perfectly balanced at the right volume, these effects have a very high level of polish that is pleasing to the ear. We get to hear a wide range of sounds, from the tip of the hat here to Final Fantasy and satisfying smashed mirror noise when entering battle, to the wide variety of battle grunts, slashes and spells. Upon entering a battle, each of your characters has a very subtle noise they make. For example, Garrison swings his sword with a satisfying swoosh, and Calibretto's metal frame creaks. It is not only in battle that our senses are treated. Whilst exploring the dungeons, audio is cleverly matched to the visuals we see on screen, from running water to a bird flying across the screen in the background. The culmination of all these elements is an accomplished layering of audio that is subtle and yet enhances the feeling of immersion into the game's world. The final piece to this auditory sensation is voice-acted dialogue that is surprisingly well done, albeit used sparingly. Major cutscenes are voice-acted as well as some smaller parts in the game to give a sense of characters' personality. This is not just major characters but includes NPCs. Often each of these characters will have some dialogue linked to a major quest or plot development. In battle, our protagonists have a small number of lines which are well delivered but used sparingly. This is a conscious choice to limit the potential annoyance of hearing the same lines many times, causing battle fatigue. Right from the opening scene, Battle Chasers Nightwar catches the eye with a beautiful hand-drawn cutscene that brings characters straight out of the comic series to life. Characters through the world display a level of detail and quality rarely seen in any game, let alone in an indie title. Characters in and out of battle are vibrant and move in a fluid way, which is something that lets many games down. The enemies on display are equally matched in terms of detail and pleasing design, though the actual number of unique monsters is a little on the low side, likely due to the high level of detail per enemy. Attacks carry weight, with strikes feeling like they do damage, which is supported by the excellent audio effects. The little details are excellent as well. Everything from the in-game battle and crafting menus have been refined to be both pleasing and clutter-free, to the extent that, at first, tricks you into thinking the game is perhaps less complex in its systems than it really is. Stylistically, the game draws, of course, heavily from its comic source. Bastion comes to mind, as does the slightly cartoon-like graphics and text of a Blizzard title. Dungeons have a 2.5D Diablo viewpoint, and the details for water, fire, mana and general backgrounds are equally impressive. As you progress through the game, different areas have a unique feel to them, with the exception of the overworld, which was quite simple and more akin to a visual novel such as Joe DeVere's Lone Wolf series. On the move, the game looks great and everything fits. JRPGs tend to feel right at home on the move, but can sometimes suffer from stuffy menus. I was surprised that the game did not include touchscreen capability, as I believe this would have been a good fit, particularly in the overworld sections. Sadly, performance doesn't live up to the polish we see in the visuals. When the game was first released on other consoles in October 2017, one of the few criticisms it received was dropped frame rates and long loading times. Both issues persist in this version. It can from time to time take 20 or so seconds to load up a battle or new map, which is noticeable, though not quite in the range of major frustration. Dropped frame rates and a loss of visual fidelity do affect the game also from time to time. Given the high polish, you can forgive it, but it does slightly detract considering how well oiled this game is otherwise. At £30.99 in the UK and $39.99 in the US, Battle Chasers Nightwar is priced at an interesting point. It's certainly cheaper than its AAA cousins, but it's priced above indie games. Considering its 20 plus hours engaging campaign, exceptional visuals and audio, and depth with repeatable randomly generated dungeons and crafting system, there is a lot here. There are a few performance issues and it would have been nice to see touchscreen capability, but these do not detract enough to lower its worthiness for investment. Overall, Battle Chasers Nightwar is a stellar example of taking a classic genre and modernising it. The changes made are very positive whilst retaining the feel of a turn-based RPG. The visuals are breathtaking and the audio sublime. Only a few technical hiccups and lack of any touchscreen or Switch-specific improvements stop this from being an even higher score. As it is, this is a must-have for any fan of the genre and comfortably one of the best RPGs so far on the Nintendo Switch. For me, a very solid 8 out of 10. That's it from me today, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this one. To all of our subscribers out there, thank you very much for all of the support you give us. And as I mentioned at the beginning, if this is your first time here and you've enjoyed this video, we'd love you to stick around. Let us know if you've got this game. It's been out a little while now. What do you think? Do you agree with my assessment or do you have a different opinion? I hope to see you again soon. I'm James Zamero. This is SwitchWatch. Take care.